So, the Atlanta Hawks actually did it, man. They fired Nate McMillan. And yeah, it's something they should have done probably earlier, if you're being honest with you all. But yeah, they finally did it after the All-Star break, after a holiday on Monday, because that's the reason I read in an article, which I'll link to you down below, but you have to pay for The Athletic if you want to read it. But in case any of you all got The Athletic, it's a really good article about Nate McMillan's time with Atlanta. But let's talk about it, right? Nate McMillan took over, it was 2 years, 2.5 years ago. He took over as an interim head coach, went on a great run with this Hawks team where they made the conference finals, lost in 6 to the champion Bucks, and then he was more of a 500 coach once again. After, reaching the conference finals, he said that he would not change anything, then replace the entire coaching staff, which was intriguing, and everything kind of fell to bad stuff again. As well, when he used Lloyd Pierce's scheme and Lloyd Pierce's system, it worked very well, but after that, it just once again didn't work at all, and it was ugly for the Hawks. And they are 29-30 this season after acquiring DeJounte Murray. And just overall, when you look at their roster, they just have a really solid roster that should not be under 500 at this point. But the season and this, overall NBA season has been very weird, so it's not that unthinkable. But with Nate McMillan's approach, overall scheme, overall just approach, old school approach to the game where he's a defensive coach, the defense has not been working at all. The offense gets stale a lot. There are way too many ISOs and way too many pick and rolls in the offense, not enough variety of stuff. And while, you can call Trae Young whatever you want to call him, because, well, a lot of people are calling him a coach killer, but man, Lloyd Pierce and Nate McMillan, come on, guys. Let's be serious here. So, yeah. Reportedly, Hawks GM said that he wanted to light a fire under the players, which, I mean, sure, buddy. I guess that's the way to do. And overall, the ownership in Atlanta and the stuff that's going on in Atlanta is so weird, man. And it is an organizational failure, in my opinion, more so than a coaching and player failure, because the organization, has a lot of issues, whether it was that the owner's son was heavily involved with the DeJounte Murray trade, reportedly, whether it was just, stepping down off the other. I'm not sure if he was an assistant GM, Travis Schlenk, but he stepped down this season for pretty much unknown reasons. Well, family reasons, but I think it's covering up a story here. And it's been very weird. Do I expect the Hawks to be a lot better after this? I do. I do think they have another run in them. I don't think they can make the conference finals, but, get into the playoffs and be competitive in round one. Sure, I believe they can do that. But the bigger question, of course, is who will be their next head coach. And Shams and Woj already put up some names out there that are very intriguing. And, well, the candidates include Bucks assistant Charles Lee, Kings assistant Jordi Fernandez, Warriors assistant Kenny Atkinson, Spurs assistant Mitch Johnson, and a G League coach of the South Bay Lakers, Miles Simon, and former Jazz coach Quin Snyder. So let me talk about, these available options per se. So, Bucks assistant Charles Lee was already an assistant under Mike Budenholzer in Atlanta from 2014 and 2018. And, I mean, with the Bucks, I think he's done a really solid job so far. I'm not sure what the Bucks, coaches think of him, but overall the Bucks have been solid, and he had to have done some solid work in there. And he's young. He already has experience with Atlanta. I think, he could fit in well with the, core of the Atlanta Hawks and with the young players and the prospects they have. They, of course, want more player development in that. They want to be a top 10 offense and top 10 defense, which I'm not sure, a Bucks coach can help you with, because the Bucks have not been a top 10 defense in a long time. But that's not here and there, because that's not solely on him, of course, and he could very well do that. And I really would like it, because he already has some really good reputation. He's clearly doing something right with the Bucks, and he already has a history in Atlanta. Could be a really solid move for them. So that's Charles Lee, which I would say I really like this option for the Hawks. The other is Kings assistant Jordi Fernandez, who's a Spaniard, and he's done really well with the offense, I presume, because I believe Mike Brown has helped a lot, of course, but I believe he has had a really good influence on the Kings' overall play. Of course, the defense has not been great for the Kings, but the offense has been, spectacular and unstoppable. And imagine if the Atlanta Hawks offense was something like that, right? And when you look at them, they have a lot of similar personnel in a way. Of course, not as great and not as well fit together personnel, but I would say they have a lot of great personnel, just like the Kings did. And with the right coaching, they could very well be, just what the Kings are this year. Maybe, I would very clearly argue they could be very much better than the Kings are this year. So he's a solid option also. Then Kenny Atkinson. I'm not sure about Kenny Atkinson, man. Last year I really liked him for my Warriors. This year, I'm not sure if what he's actually taken care of. The offense is not great overall. The defense is horrible. And I'm not sure if he has not reached kind of his ceiling with the Nets. And if his ceiling isn't just, making slightly worse teams better and enhancing some young guys, which still I would argue fits, of course, very well with the Hawks. But I'm not sure he's a coach you want to win you a title. But he could be a really good stepping stone, of course. But I don't know, man. I'm not sure how to feel about Kenny Atkinson. I really like the dude. I really think he's a solid coach, but I'm not sure why would you not give, a younger coach rather a chance when you look at the, success rate around the league. When you look at, Joe Mazzulla in Boston or Mike D'Antoni in OKC, I think you should go younger, man. I think it would be really well. So I'm not sure about Kenny Atkinson, really. Then a Spurs assistant, Mitch Johnson, which, it's really hard to, judge Mitch Johnson based on his coaching resume, because, well, he's coaching under Pop, so that's always gonna give you huge props, but the Spurs have been just horrible and tanking, so it's a bigger risk than a Charles Lee, but at the same time, is it a bigger risk? Not really, right? So he's young. He comes from the, under Greg Popovich, which was a Mike Budenholzer, which worked for the Hawks 10 years ago already, right? So I would say that's, of course, not a bad choice, but I would be a little more skeptical about him than Charles Lee per se, but I also wouldn't be mad at it. The one guy I would hate absolutely for, the Hawks is Quin Snyder. While I think he's a really solid coach, man, I don't see him, getting the best out of this Hawks team. I think his time, in this league has not passed, of course, but I believe it's, how do I say it? I don't believe, the Hawks would get that much better. They would have a better offensive scheme, a better offense, but I don't think the defense and the player development would be as great as, as he would like it to be. Of course, he's not a horrible choice per se. I don't think any of the coaches that have been listed are a bad choice. Not sure about Miles Simons, who coaches in the G League, is from Sweden, 47 years old also. Not sure about him. I'm not really, familiar with him that well, but he's clearly doing pretty well in the G League. So he's probably not a bad option. I just wouldn't I wouldn't go for him based on what I know, based on what I, know, which is not that much. So can't really take my opinion on him perfectly, but I believe the other choices are all just very reasonable and very appealing for the Hawks for a lot of reasons. Whether it's Charles Lee, Jordi Fernandez, Kenny Atkinson, Mitch Johnson, or even Quin Snyder, Miles Simons. If it were me, I would consider first for the more, priorities. I believe they could get something, great out of these guys. They could fit in well with them, could get them to play the offense that this team should be able to play, and to play at least an above average defense, which this team also is very capable of. And yeah, you can say Trae Young is a defensive liability, but he's been playing really well on defense this season, and he's been trying all year, and he's been doing a lot of good work on the defensive end this season, despite, whatever you want to hear on the internet. Trae Young has been really solid defensively, and I believe with the right scheme and the right coaching, he could, the defense could 100% work very well. Question is, would you take a chance on? I believe it's worth taking a chance on, these young guys. I like the Charles Lee hiring based on the history. I think, with the Bucks, he learned from, Bud, who was in Atlanta. It's a good fit in my opinion, but I wouldn't be mad at any other of these, Jordi Fernandez, Kenny Atkinson, or Mitch Johnson. I would like to see Jordi Fernandez, Mitch Johnson, Charles Lee more than Kenny Atkinson, Quin Snyder, and Miles Simon, in my opinion, because I would like to see them go younger and not, slightly less experienced. Sounds bad, but guys who could, who will have more to prove, in my opinion, right? Even though Kenny Atkinson and Quin Snyder have a lot to prove also, I think when you're coming in for the first time, you have a lot more to prove, in my opinion, than when you're supposed to do it again. Of course, both are very tough, but that's my opinion, honestly. That's how I view it. Let me know your thoughts about these Hawks, the Hawks situation overall. Who would you hire if you were the Hawks? And do you think they can be a top 10 defense, top 10 offense next year? Let me know. See you all tomorrow. Like and subscribe.